When you step into a relationship, it's easy to lose sight of who you are as an individual. Sometimes people get so caught up in trying to meet their partner's needs that they forget what makes them special in the first place. But here's the truth. The most powerful way to make someone fear losing you is to show that you are whole and complete on your own. That doesn't mean acting distant or playing games. It means embracing your independence and confidence in a way that draws people in. Think about it. We're naturally drawn to people who are passionate, driven, and full of life. When you pursue your goals, nurture your friendships, and focus on your growth, you create a presence that's magnetic. You're not relying on someone else to make you happy. You're already there, and that's powerful. Picture this. You're chasing your dreams, building your career, and finding time to do the things that light you up. Whether it's diving into a fitness journey, learning a new skill, or dedicating time to creative outlets, when you live fully and intentionally, you naturally show your worth. You become someone he admires, not just because you're in his life, but because of how vibrant and fulfilled you are on your own. Confidence plays a big role in this. Confidence isn't about being loud or showing off. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and walking in that truth. When you carry yourself with certainty, people feel it. You don't need to announce that you're strong and independent. It shows in the way you make decisions, the way you handle challenges, and how you present yourself to the world. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's quiet, steady, and undeniable. Now, here's where things get interesting. When a man sees that you're not dependent on him for your happiness, it sparks something inside him. He starts to realize that your life is already full and complete, and that if he doesn't bring his best, there's a chance you may just keep moving forward without him. That thought triggers his fear of losing you. He begins to understand that your presence in his life is a privilege, not a guarantee. That's the moment he recognizes that you're not someone who will tolerate being taken for granted. But independence isn't just about personal achievements, it's also about emotional strength. When you know how to manage your emotions, stay grounded during tough moments, and maintain your sense of self, you prove that you're capable of standing on your own. You're not reaching out to him out of desperation, you're connecting because you choose to. That's a powerful shift, and men feel that difference. It's also important to nurture your own social world. Spend time with friends, invest in meaningful connections, and build a life that excites you. When a man sees that you have a strong support system, that you're out there laughing, growing, and sharing moments with people who matter to you, it makes him aware that your world doesn't revolve around him, and that's a good thing. It reminds him that if he isn't showing up for you the way he should, there's a whole world waiting to celebrate you. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about playing hard to get or trying to make someone jealous. It's about being so engaged in your own life that you naturally exude a sense of purpose and fulfillment. That energy makes a man want to be part of your world, not because you need him, but because he realizes how much richer his life is with you in it. When you're true to yourself, when you follow your path without hesitation, you send a clear message. You are a woman who knows her worth. And that's what makes a man stop in his tracks and think, I can't afford to lose her. You know, one of the most powerful things you can do in a relationship is set boundaries. And I don't mean putting up walls and shutting people out. I'm talking about understanding your own worth and showing others how you expect to be treated. When you know what you stand for, when you know what you deserve, that energy speaks louder than words. It's the kind of presence that makes people take notice. Setting boundaries isn't about being harsh or cold. It's about respect for yourself and for the relationship you're trying to build. Because when you know your limits and you're clear about them, you create a space where love, trust, and commitment can grow. Without boundaries, it's easy for someone to start taking you for granted. Not always because they mean to, but because people naturally push limits. That's just human nature. But when you confidently stand firm on what you will and won't accept, you make it clear that you're not someone who will tolerate disrespect or neglect. Imagine you're always available, answering calls at any hour, changing your plans to accommodate his schedule, constantly sacrificing your needs just to keep the peace. At first, it might seem like you're being loving, patient, or even understanding. But over time, that pattern teaches him that your time, your energy, and even your feelings can be overlooked. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't compromise. Relationships require give and take. But when you constantly bend yourself just to keep things smooth, you start to lose the very thing that makes you valuable, your self-respect. When you establish boundaries, you're saying, I know what I bring to the table, and I refuse to accept less than I deserve. And when a man sees that, when he realizes there are certain lines he can't cross, it triggers something inside him. He starts to understand that if he doesn't step up, he could lose you. That awareness creates urgency. It forces him to recognize that you're not someone who will tolerate half-hearted effort or inconsistency. But here's the key. Boundaries aren't just about what you say, they're about what you show. It's one thing to tell someone what you expect. It's another thing to follow through. If you tell him you won't tolerate disrespect, yet you let him talk down to you or dismiss your feelings, that boundary loses its meaning. But when you calmly and confidently walk away from behavior that doesn't align with your standards, you send a powerful message. You mean what you say, and you won't compromise your peace for the sake of keeping someone around. And you know what? That kind of strength earns respect. A man may not always like hearing no or being told what you won't accept, but deep down, he respects it. Why? Because boundaries show that you're not desperate to be chosen. You're willing to choose yourself. And that's powerful. That's the moment he realizes you're not afraid to walk away if the relationship isn't serving you. That's the moment he starts to see you not as someone he can coast with, but as someone he has to work to keep. Now, boundaries aren't about being difficult or demanding. They're about creating balance. When you have healthy boundaries, you're protecting your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being. And when a man sees that you take care of yourself like that, it makes him want to step up because he knows that if he doesn't, someone else will. But here's the beautiful thing. The right man, the one who genuinely values you, he won't be intimidated by your boundaries. He'll appreciate them. Because a man who's serious about you isn't looking for someone who will tolerate anything. He's looking for someone who inspires him to be better, someone who holds him accountable, someone who shows him through her strength and self-respect that she's a woman worth fighting for. And when you carry yourself with that kind of power, when you stand firm on your values and refuse to settle, you won't have to beg anyone to treat you right. Because the man who's meant for you, he'll recognize what he has, and he'll make sure he never loses it. One of the most important things you can do in any relationship is to remind someone of your value, not by constantly telling them, but by showing it in the way you live, love, and carry yourself. See, real value isn't just about what you say, it's about how you make people feel. It's about the presence you bring, the energy you create, and the impact you have on the people around you. And when you consistently show up as someone who adds meaning, joy, and strength to a man's life, that's when he starts to realize what he has and what he stands to lose. People remember how you make them feel. When you bring peace into his life, when your presence makes him feel understood, encouraged, and supported, you become someone he doesn't want to be without. But that doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you show up with kindness, patience, and authenticity. It's in those moments when you listen without judgment, when you believe in him when he's doubting himself, when you remind him of his own strength. That's when your values shine. But here's the key. Showing your value doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. It's not about doing everything for him or bending over backward just to make him happy. It's about knowing what you bring to the table. Your wisdom, your kindness, your ambition, your ability to love deeply, and giving that in a way that feels natural, not forced. Because when you know your worth, you don't have to prove it, you just live it. When a man sees that you're not seeking validation, but instead moving with quiet confidence, he feels it. He knows you're with him because you choose to be, not because you need to be. That's powerful. That's what makes him step back and think, this woman makes my life better. I can't imagine losing her. Value also comes from how you handle yourself when things aren't perfect. Anybody can be charming when things are easy, but your true worth shows in the way you respond to challenges. When you can stay calm under pressure, communicate with honesty, and handle disagreements with grace instead of chaos, that's the kind of strength that leaves a lasting impression. It tells him that you're someone who brings stability, not drama, and that's rare. But showing your value isn't just about what you do for him, it's also about what you do for yourself. A man notices when you're committed to your own growth, when you set goals and chase them, when you invest time in your health, your career, your passions. That's attractive. It tells him that your happiness doesn't depend on him alone. And that's what makes him realize how valuable you are. Because when he sees you thriving in your own life, he understands that being with you is a privilege, not something he can take lightly. And here's the thing, sometimes you won't even realize the full impact you're having. It might be the way you encourage him to go after something he's been afraid to pursue, or how you give him the confidence to believe in himself when he's uncertain. It could be the warmth you bring when he's had a rough day, or the strength you show when life gets hard. Those are the moments that stick with a man. Those are the moments that make him think, she's someone I can't afford to lose. But you can't create that kind of impact if you're constantly trying to convince him of your value. The power is in being true to who you are, being committed to your own growth, and being someone who brings positivity, strength, and purpose to every space you walk into. Because when a man starts to realize how much better his life feels with you in it, when he sees the way you inspire him, support him, and challenge him to grow, that's when it hits him. Losing you isn't an option he's willing to risk. You know, one of the most powerful ways to capture someone's attention and keep it is to stay a little unpredictable. Now, I'm not talking about playing mind games or trying to confuse someone. What I mean is this: when you keep evolving, when you continue to surprise people by growing, changing, and stepping outside of what's expected, you create an energy that's impossible to ignore. And when a man realizes he can't quite predict your next move, when he sees that there's always more to you, that's when he starts to feel that fear of losing you. See, people get comfortable in relationships, sometimes too comfortable. They start thinking they know everything about you. They assume you'll always be there, always be available, always do things the same way. But when you keep adding new layers to who you are, it reminds him that you're not someone he can just figure out once and forget about. You're someone who keeps evolving, and that keeps him on his toes. It could be something as simple as trying new things, stepping into a hobby you've never explored, taking a trip on your own, or learning a new skill just because it excites you. When you're willing to step outside your comfort zone, you show him that you're not waiting for life to happen, you're out there creating it. And that makes him realize he can't take you for granted, because the person you are today is only a glimpse of who you're becoming. Even in your conversations, there's power in a little unpredictability. When you share new thoughts, challenge his ideas, or introduce him to experiences he's never considered, you leave an impression. It keeps him curious, wondering what's on your mind, what you're thinking, what you're planning next. That sense of curiosity, that's what keeps people engaged. It's what makes a man start to realize that if he's not paying attention, if he's not present in the relationship, he could wake up one day and realize you've moved forward without him. But unpredictability isn't just about being spontaneous or adventurous. It's also about emotional depth. There's something powerful about showing him different sides of who you are. Maybe one day you're playful and lighthearted, and the next day you're thoughtful and reflective. Maybe one moment you're cracking jokes, and the next you're sharing something deeply personal. That kind of emotional range keeps things real, and it keeps him invested. Because when you show that you're not one-dimensional, that you have layers to your personality, your emotions, and your perspective, it creates a sense of mystery that's impossible to ignore. And here's the truth: people value what they feel they can't fully grasp. When a man senses that there's more to you than what's on the surface, when he feels like there's always another side of you to discover, that's when he starts to realize just how special you are. He knows that if he's not careful, if he stops showing up, stops investing, stops appreciating you, he could lose the chance to know those other parts of you. But here's the key: this isn't about changing who you are or trying to impress someone. It's about embracing your own growth. being open to new experiences, discovering new passions, and allowing yourself to evolve. When you do that, you naturally create a presence that keeps people drawn in. And a man who cares about you, he won't just sit back and watch. He'll feel inspired to grow right alongside you. That's what sparks that fear of losing you, not because you're trying to create distance, but because you're showing him that you're a woman who's always moving forward. And if he wants to be part of your journey, he's going to have to keep up. You know, there's something powerful about being a person that others gravitate toward. When people value your presence, when they enjoy your company and want to be around you, it sends a message that you're someone special, someone who brings something meaningful to the table. And when a man sees that, it has a way of sparking something inside him, because when he realizes that other people recognize your worth, it reminds him that if he's not careful, he could lose you to someone who truly appreciates what you bring. See, people are drawn to energy. They're drawn to warmth, kindness, and authenticity. When you walk into a room with a smile that lights people up, when you take the time to connect with others, when you genuinely listen and make people feel seen, that creates an impact. And a man who's paying attention, he notices that. He sees how people respond to you, how your friends laugh a little louder when you're there, how your presence makes people feel at ease. And when he realizes that others enjoy your company just as much as he does, it shifts something in his mind. He starts to understand that you're not just special to him, you're special, period. But here's the thing. Social proof isn't about showing off or trying to make someone jealous. It's about living your life in a way that reflects your value. When you nurture your friendships, invest time in your community, and build meaningful connections with the people around you, it shows that you're a person who brings value wherever you go. And when a man sees that, when he realizes that people genuinely enjoy being around you, it reminds him that he's not the only one who sees your worth. That's when he starts to feel that little tug, that quiet voice that says, if I don't step up, someone else will. Now, this isn't about playing games or creating competition. It's about being someone who's genuinely fulfilled in your own life. When you're out there making memories, spending time with people who uplift you, and engaging with the world in a way that fills you with joy, you create a presence that's magnetic. A man who truly values you, he won't want to risk losing that. There's something powerful about a woman who's connected to her world, someone who's not just focused on her relationship, but who has a life that's full and rich on its own. When you're busy doing things that bring you joy, whether it's going out with friends, volunteering, or pursuing your passions, it shows that your happiness doesn't depend on him alone, and that's what makes him realize just how rare and valuable you are. Because he knows that if he doesn't nurture the relationship, you won't be left feeling empty. You'll simply keep thriving, and someone else will see that light in you. And here's the truth. The right man won't be intimidated by your social world. He'll be drawn to it. He'll want to be part of that energy, part of the moments that make you smile, part of the life that you're so actively building. But he'll also know that if he takes you for granted, if he stops showing up the way he should, you won't be left waiting, because you've created a life that's too rich, too fulfilling to be put on hold. That's the moment it clicks for him. That's the moment he realizes you're not someone he can afford to lose. One of the most powerful ways to leave a lasting impact on someone is to create a deep emotional connection. People can forget what you say, they might even forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And when a man feels something powerful with you, something that touches his heart and stays with him long after you left the room, that's when he starts to realize just how important you are in his life. Emotional connection doesn't come from surface level conversations or just spending time together. It's built in those moments when you're real, when you open up in a way that feels honest and meaningful. It's when you share your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, not to impress him, but because you trust him enough to let him see that side of you. That kind of vulnerability is powerful. When you're willing to be open, to let your guard down just enough to show him who you really are, it invites him to do the same. And that's what builds a bond that's hard to break. See, most people are guarded. They walk through life protecting themselves, afraid to show too much. But when you create a space where he feels safe enough to be vulnerable, where he can share his insecurities, his doubts, or the things he's too proud to admit to anyone else, that's when you become more than just someone he enjoys spending time with. You become someone he needs in his life. Because when a man feels like he can be his true self around you, no ego, no front, no pressure to perform, that's when he realizes you're someone he can't afford to lose. But emotional connection isn't just about deep conversations, it's also about presence, being fully there in the moments that matter. When you listen, really listen without interrupting or trying to fix everything, you make him feel heard. When you remember the little things, his favorite song, the way he takes his coffee, the story he told you about his childhood, you make him feel seen. And when you celebrate his wins, comfort him in his losses, and remind him of his strength, when he's doubting himself, you make him feel valued. That kind of connection sticks with a man because it's not something he finds every day. There's a big difference between someone who's just physically present and someone who makes you feel understood on a deeper level. And when a man feels that with you, when he feels that you get him in a way others don't, that's when he starts to understand what's really at stake. But here's the important part. That connection has to go both ways. You can't carry the emotional weight of the relationship on your own. It's not just about understanding him, it's also about letting him understand you. When you share your thoughts, your feelings, and your experiences, you create moments where he feels like he's earning your trust. And that's powerful. Because when a man feels like he's being invited into your world, when he sees that you're trusting him with parts of yourself that not everyone gets to see, it makes him want to hold on to you even tighter. And it's not always about the big moments. Sometimes it's the simple things that leave the deepest impression. Maybe it's the quiet comfort of sitting together in silence after a long day, or the way you encourage him when he's second guessing himself. Maybe it's the way you challenge him to be better, not by criticizing him, but by believing in him in a way that makes him believe in himself. Those moments don't just fade, they stay with him. And they remind him of what life feels like with you in it. When you create that kind of emotional connection, when you make someone feel safe, seen, and supported, it sparks something powerful inside them. Because the thought of losing that, the thought of losing you, that's a risk he won't be willing to take.